Run it back for the boys from 69, back for the fans on 12th and Vine. Run it back to back and raise it high.
Hello, Chiefs Kingdom, and welcome to the MKE CHIEFScast live from the Wolf Den Special Edition, where I am joined by some very special guests. As always, I'm Josh, and all Southeast Wisconsin residents are invited to join us for game day. Check us out at mkechiefsfans.com. We're, of course, presented by Complete Weddings and Events, your leading provider of photo, video, DJ, photo booth, lighting, and coordination services. And so today, my two guests are Jeff Halland, who is a standard issue Kansas City resident, and Chris Rao, a Kansas City resident and an artist. And we're going to be looking at his stuff specifically. You can see a ton of it behind Jeff right now. Make sure that you check out and ideally buy his stuff on chrisraoart.etsy.com, and also follow him at Chris_Rao_art on Instagram. So I'm a pretty recent enthusiast to your stuff. So the pieces that I have on order, thanks to the Postal Service, are still sitting in a DC and Kansas City. Maybe they're getting ready for the Super Bowl as well out there, like you guys are. But really looking forward to having some of it to have my wall look a little closer to what Jeff's looks like. And Jeff actually did introduce me to your stuff. So if you could start by just telling me how you got into the style of art that you do, what would you call the style of art, and just kind of your path to where you are and to getting, these pieces out to the world.
Sure. Thanks for having me on, by the way. This is a blast. So yeah, I've been drawing sort of like cartoons and stuff since I was a little kid. And I just kind of got into this. I'm also a comic book artist, so I draw comic books as well. And I'm an art teacher. So my style is kind of like, I guess I would call it more like comic book style. It's not quite as realistic as some of the stuff you might see. It's more like turning the people, the athletes, into superheroes. I had, when I was growing up, I had all these pennants hanging from my, in my bedroom. They were like caricatures of football players or basketball players, or actually, I might actually have one around here somewhere. I'll see if I can find one in a second. But I just always liked that larger than life sort of cartoony style. I mean, I grew up watching like X-Men, the animated series, and like Batman and stuff like that. And I was always a huge sports fan. So just putting the two things together, that's kind of where I got this style from. So what I did was, the very first thing that I did when I first started doing this was I drew Wade Davis. You remember Wade Davis, the relief pitcher for the Royals?
Yeah,
I don't know if you have a lot of crossover.
He's back
Royals
on the team now at this point, actually. He's
That's
on
right.
a minor league contract, yeah.
I just saw that. Yeah. So he was called the Cyborg back in the day. So I just drew him in this style and gave him like a robot arm and like a robot eye, like that, when we were winning World Series. And it was really fun, and it kind of took off. And so then I started just applying that style and giving like these various characters, superhero, muscles and special abilities and glowing eyes and things like that. So yeah,
Sure.
That's kind of where it came from.
So also as a kid, were you an enthusiast into the things like the starting lineup or the starting lineup character figurines? Were you a big bobblehead enthusiast, things of that nature? Did any of that influence what you do with the sports figures?
All of it. Yeah. I have some starting lineup characters or figures like around here as well somewhere. I just
right behind you. It looks like
Deion Sanders and my Joe Montana just right before we got on. Here I found it. Here's a pennant that I was talking about. There was one right back over here. So like this would be like, do you guys remember these things?
Oh yeah.
I had like a whole bunch of them. Like in this one here. This is like from my youth, like the Shaq one or whatever. So this was all over my room when I was younger. And that's kind of where it comes from, I guess. That's where that style comes from.
So the next question is actually going to be from Jeff, because I think he's an expert on this next subject. The best way to get a hold of the art to buy through Etsy. Jeff has clearly bought some of this stuff. So, Jeff, what's the best way to secure any of his pieces of artwork?
So it's just go to the website, and I'll be honest with you, I have it saved, and I have to remember a lot of stuff, but I think it's chrisraoart at etsy.com. But I knew Chris personally because we used to work together. And so when I saw him go into or start becoming, a sports artist, I immediately latched on because I really dug his style. I really liked what he was putting out. Plus, I'm not going to lie, if I can help support somebody locally, that's exactly what I want to do. So that's just how it all folded out.
And I appreciate that. Thanks.
So Chris, I know following you on social media, the typical process is you'll do a sketch on paper, then you digitize it, and you've got a coloring process, and then usually you have some limited edition prints, and then you'll do some inventory of the prints that you do more long term. So what does that normally look like when you're looking at the chrisrauart.etsy.com? What are we normally looking at?
Yeah, you kind of laid it out there. So basically what I'll do is there are two ways that I begin a project. Either someone like commissions me to do something, like that Dan Sorensen one that I just finished, hot off the presses. I just got it.
Hey,
Dirty Dan.
So if somebody commissions me to do it, the process begins with, like you were saying, I'm a traditional artist. I'm also an art teacher at Raytown High School here in Kansas City. So I will draw a pencil on paper and then ink, and then there will be like an actual original piece of like a drawing, and then I scan it into the computer. And then through Photoshop, I have like a drawing tablet. I'll do all my coloring using this Huion tablet. Basically, it's like a direct input. So like where you draw, you can color on the screen kind of thing. So that's how I get the coloring. And then I'll have that main file, and then I can print it a certain, I can print it at my printer. And so what I'll do is on a launch, as you were saying a second ago, I'll usually designate some number, like usually somewhere between like 10 and 20 pieces, and I'll do like a first edition, and I'll print those off, and those usually go very quickly. They'll be individually numbered. They're slightly different. I don't really want to. It's kind of like a little Easter egg why they're a little bit different. But anyway, those first editions will come off, and then after a little while, I'll replenish the backlog, and then the prints will be there for hopefully forever. Yeah.
Chris, was Giordano a first edition? I'm just curious.
Well, you have a special version of that. So I no longer do that, Jeff. I used to print them on giant canvases like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I now have a new printer who allows me to do extra large prints, but there was only like 3 or 4 of those canvas prints that ever went out. So I do print at that size, but yeah, you got a one of a kind back there. It's the only one like that.
So you can't necessarily tell what's going on with Giordano back there, just based on the angle, Jeff. So when was that piece of art made?
You're asking me or Jeff?
I'm asking you. I know when Jeff got that, but when was a piece of Giordano art done?
So it was done while I was doing it. So I was actually doing it during the off season, and I was creating that poster when he died. So I had that poster. It was going to be coming out the next year to kick off the season. Then we got the news. And so then what I did there, you can't really see it on the screen, but if someone were to go to the website, you could see a bigger version of it. It's kind of got like a halo and some angel wings glowing in the background.
Gotcha.
So I was going to do like a fire thing coming off the hand, because I try to add like a little bit of like that superhero quality to all the pieces in some fashion. But then it didn't seem right at the time, so I just did it that way. And then I just kind of delayed that launch. I didn't really make a big deal out of it. I just kind of put it on the site because it just kind of felt, I don't know, icky. I didn't want to like make it seem like I was trying to take advantage of anything, because he was my favorite player coming into that 16th season or the 17th season.
Yeah.
So,
gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's definitely a unique piece, and I've obviously seen it up close before. It's a really nice one for fans of the Royals. So I have a hard time believing that that's one of your favorite projects that you worked on. It sounds like it was one that you were on a path towards being a favorite project, and it was going to be a flamethrower, and then it turned into more of just a thing out of like duty and tribute. It sounds like.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, it was just like a bittersweet, I guess I'd say. So yeah, the ones that I think you were getting at, the ones that have been my favorite have been these more recent Chiefs, like mural ones, like the ones that have all the different players in them. I've done a number of those, or I don't know, 3 or 4 like that have multiple players in them, and those have been really fun to do.
Yeah. So which was more fun to do, the all-time greats or the Neil Smith, Derek Thomas one?
Interesting. The Neil Smith Derek Thomas one was sort of like my own idea. I grew up playing like Tecmo Bowl, and I became a Kansas City Chiefs fan probably in like 1989 when I was probably 8 years old. So I can those early 90s. I consider it the Tecmo era. Those teams,
sure, yeah,
were still my favorite. Like Derek Thomas is still my favorite player of all time. It's going to take a lot to beat that. So anyway, that was a lot of fun for me to do. That was all my idea, I guess. The other one, the all-time great one, people have been asking me to do something like that for like a long time. Like ever since I started, everybody's like, oh, you should do a Bobby Bell or whatever. My uncle really likes Willie Lanier. And I'm like, okay, well, I don't know if anybody else is going to buy that, but but that's cool. So, so what I decided to do on that all-time one, I actually have one here. If you can see it. So what I decided to do with this all-time one was I picked 5 players, and it wasn't just me. It was almost like a community effort. Yep. I asked people online to help me out with it. I picked 5 players from the current team, which are like our 5 All-Pros, which you could probably guess off the top of your head. Mm-hmm. And then I picked 5 from that era when I was first a fan. So like from Derek Thomas all the way up through Vermeil, all the way really up till through Jamal Charles. I have that as like the middle era. And then the previous era was like the early, the late to like the 60s, basically the Len Dawson teams. So, and then by doing that, I got them all on the same page. I picked like 15. Yeah. And you can kind of see, if you look closely, some of the uniforms are slightly different. So like there's a Bobby Bell. You can see it's kind of got a darker look to it. Yep. Than or like even Len Dawson in the middle there. And then like the Mahomes is a little more modern looking with the brighter colors and the, the armor underneath his pads and that and whatnot. Well, and the detail to the number stylings is one of the things that jumped out to me, and just looking at the way that the numbers looked on the jerseys. When you watch the '69 Super Bowl on YouTube, or I guess it was in 1970, but when you watch that fourth Super Bowl where they beat the Vikings, the uniforms look the same but different, and that's one of the cool things about the classic just look of the Chiefs. And you see what companies like Nike do, and here we have the Seahawks, which that's not what they originally looked like. Right. I like the bright colors and things of that nature, but there's something really cool about the vintage, like Chiefs, Packers, Bears, things of that nature. That's really neat. I'm actually I'm an easy target for all that new modern stuff. Like I love I love the Seahawks jerseys. I'm like one of the only guys who likes the Rams jerseys. Like I like all that modern stuff. But you're right though. The classics they're classics for a reason, like the Chiefs I think the Chiefs probably have the best uniform in the NFL, honestly, if I'm not being exactly. I mean, you're not going to see most vintages of the Oregon Ducks uniforms sitting on any kind of best all time type of thing. It's that was fun that year. So what's coming up next? What are the next pieces that you're looking at? Following you on social media, it seems like you have a little bit of a plan, and then you also just get the urge and do things like draw Godzilla or something like that. So what's that's right. What's next that you know about? All right. So yeah, that's correct. What you just said is correct. So like I've got some plans in my mind. I've got a commission list. I got a buddy who wants me to do the same all-time thing for the Dallas Cowboys. I'm going to probably do something like that in the far future. And like you said, I drew Godzilla today just because my son wanted one. And I sell those things at like comic conventions and stuff. Oh, sure. But what my big plan is, I did a Super Bowl championship poster last year. Sure. After we had won, a lot of that's it, right? Is that the right one? There, actually, Jeff, is the team mural of the team before they went to the Super Bowl. So I have this other one that I did after they won the Super Bowl, which is champions. The one over Jeff's left shoulder. Oh, I missed that one. Did you have that one up there? Right. Yeah, so that one there is he got it wrong and got it right. All of these are various like plays that happen during the game. Sure. So like there's like Wasp, and there's Damian Williams crossing the goal, things like that, or Chris Jones batting down. Reed so anyway, soaked. Yeah. What I'd like to do is I'd like to have a companion piece, and the idea would be I'd have the same font and the same layout and everything exactly the same. Some sort of central figure depending on how the game goes, and then 5 or 6 plays that happen. So what I'm looking for is to make like a diptych, like having 2 that would hang together. because I a lot of people bought this championship one and they're asking me for the next one, and I'm like, well, let's just wait to see. I don't want to jinx it, you know.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Would you do an MVP poster? I know that you have the Patrick Champion one. Would there be a similar type of thing, assuming this goes the way we want it to?
Yeah, I think. Oh, you mean as the central figure? Yeah, I'd probably put the MVP in the center of the thing. Hopefully, it would be unique if it was like. It'd be tough to get a tight end to get it without the quarterback getting it, but it'd be really neat if like Travis Kelce has 3 touchdowns and he's the MVP, and then I could have them, next to each other over the course of our dynasty, having various central figures that are not always Mahomes. That might look cool on the wall, but I got to go with what happens.
There you go. So rather than putting the cart before the horse on, drawing something that hasn't happened yet, let's talk a little bit about watching football from the very recent part here. What was your favorite part or favorite play in the AFC Championship game? And, when did you know that the game was in hand and we were going to the Super Bowl again?
So I'm very high on the Chiefs. I know a lot of people are, but a lot of people are tentative as well, I think.
Sure.
I'm a bit of a nerd regarding the Chiefs. Like I like to watch, like I'm a PFF guy, I'm deep on the numbers and stuff. And I think I always thought we were significantly better than the Bills, even when everybody else was nervous. So when we went down 9-0 or 10-0 or whatever it was going to be, I was not really that nervous. I never felt nervous during that game. When we were at the game, we were like down in the bottom bowl, and as we were leaving, I turned to my wife and I was like, "Man, that was easy." And I think the moment that I really knew it was at that long sustained drive after going down 9-0, and when we cut it to 9-7, I was like, I think this game's over. And then you blink and it's 38-15. Like we're just.
Yeah.
I think it was when we put it in on our first touchdown after the deficit. What about you? When did you feel that it was in hand?
Pretty much the same time. I felt like they were better than the Bills as well. I don't know that I expected it to be quite like that, but I would say that by the time we got towards the end of the third quarter, my thought process was that was, easy. And my wife's telling me not to, jinx it or anything. But the thing that resounds with me most, knowing how easy that game actually was, I have a coworker who's from Turkey that has zero interest in American football. But when it gets to a point where it's towards the end of the season, like it is right now, you can't help but pay attention to it. And so she's sending me texts the next morning going, "Hey, congrats to your team. I bet you're really happy about this." She's like, "That was an easy game, wasn't it?" And I'm like, "Okay, so you noticed that. You noticed that game was easy. That's yeah, it was uncomfortably easy, actually." So Jeff, what were your thoughts on the game?
Watching it with my kids, both girls were just like, "Oh no, we're down by 9," because of course they didn't show up for the beginning. Kelly and I sat there and started watching it from point blank one, but they came down 9-0. What's going on? And I think my exact response was, just wait.
Yeah.
and sure. And of course, Kelly was like, "Yeah, come on. You can't say that," and I'm like, "No, just wait." Because there was a calm. And if you're a true Chiefs fan, there was a calm because you trust your quarterback. You trust that he's leading the team the way he should lead the team. And that's all I needed. Is I sat there and my blood pressure did not go up. We made a couple of bad plays here and there, but really what it came down to is I kind of like Chris said, you trust in if you're that diehard of a fan. And I'll be honest, Josh, you're much more of a diehard fan. Chris, you much more are a diehard fan. I travel for a living for work. I don't get to see every single game. I may have to record it and come back. I don't ever get to see that live, but I felt pretty good. When down by 9-0, I'm like, okay, so that's basically, 3 field goals. Sweet. We've got this. So That's how I felt.
If I had to pin it to one specific moment, I think it was a combination of the way they picked up Hardman after the muff punt, because I was pretty mad at him, until basically Kelsey and Mahomes made it clear that you should not be mad at him. So I kind of checked myself, and then he caught that first touchdown pass, and you went right to him, and there was just an air of okay, you're proving a point, and that's just where we're at tonight. So getting ready for the upcoming game. Jeff, where are you watching the game, and what's your score prediction? Who do you think is going to be the MVP?
Where am I watching the game? That is TBD. Different options, either at my house or somebody else's house. Small group. My predictions is going to be 33-13.
Okay. Who's the MVP?
Chiefs. Pat Mahomes, obviously.
Gotcha. Chris, what are you thinking?
I think it's going to be a blowout. I think we're way better than the Bucks. I know that we got some issues on the offensive line, but I think that we're a really bad matchup for them. The way our offense runs, it doesn't require a real tight pocket, honestly, unlike the Bucks, who definitely do. I think that the Bucks beat the Packers' brains in last week. Well, they didn't beat the brains in. They managed to get to Rodgers, and people always confuse the Chiefs and the Packers as being similar teams, but I really don't think that's the case. The Packers rely on like a Ziploc sealed pocket. Like they have an elite offensive line.
Yep.
And once you could get around it, you can really make problems. I don't think that's the case for us. I think that we're built for that mobility. And I have a feeling we're going to just blow the doors off of them. I think we might be looking at one of those late 80s, early 90s, like what the 49ers used to do to people. I mean, I don't want to get too ahead of myself because I know Reed likes to take his foot off the gas, but not now, right? If it's the second half of the Super Bowl, I feel like he's just going to keep it moving. And I'm thinking it's going to be a blowout. I'm thinking like 38-17. I think that's what I would do. I can't believe the line is so low, honestly. I think there's a lot of Tom Brady in that line. And on the Super Bowl line, I know the public pushes it a little bit more than the gamblers, but I was shocked to see it there. So I would say 38-17, and I think Mahomes will probably, safe money's on Mahomes being the MVP, in my opinion. Yeah, sure. Oh, and where I'm going to watch it, I will be watching it in my bedroom. I'll be standing in front of my television. I don't really love Super Bowl parties or anything like that because I'm not really there for the social aspect. I'm probably not a ton of fun to be around, but I'm like staring at the game and trying to watch every play, and so I like it to be a solitary thing. So last year, my wife and I just watched it by ourselves while the kids were running around, and then after we won, we then went out into the neighborhood and partied with everybody, like out on the street or whatever. But Gotcha. I'll be by myself watching it.
So big games are all business.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
Yeah. Pretty much every recording that I've done for the back half of the season, we've talked about Reed taking his foot off the gas. The terminology I like to use in soccer, whatever level you're talking about, if you score a goal and then play defense, the kind of slang term for that is you park the bus. And I feel like Reed did that a lot. Pretty much this whole second half of the season was, parking the bus and just securing the tight wins. And to a degree, it's hiding the playbook. I don't think the Bucks have even seen the playbook, and that team probably had the bus parked hardest on them of anybody. I mean, we went up big and won the game 27-24. So I think it's definitely within the realm of possibility. I also think that team's different than it was at that point. I have a hard time saying blowout out loud just because Tom Brady is on the other side of the ball. But I mean, if he turns the ball over 3 times, we're winning by 3 touchdowns. Similar to the Packers game. And I think that we've got the defensive backs with Thornhill playing at the level that he is, obviously the landlord. I don't see how Sorensen doesn't make a play in this game just because I'm expecting it. And I can see the blowout, but what I feel confident in saying, though, more than anything, is that we're not going to have to watch Brady get the ball with 2 minutes left and a chance to do something.
No, yeah.
I think the game's going to get managed out of that, which is a good thing. So I'm going to say it's going to be the Chiefs somewhere in the neighborhood of 35 to somewhere in the neighborhood of 24. And I'm thinking Mahomes is probably going to be the MVP. I mean, I kind of got cute in one segment and said, I think we're going to get a dark horse. It's going to be a close game and Sorensen's going to get it or something, just to make something really interesting, or, Kelsey or somebody's going to get their Dion branch on and, win it. But yeah,
did you see did you see the prop bets on Sorensen's MVP?
I didn't.
It's something. It's like there's some really good value there. Let's just say it's really high odds. But I mean, in a scenario like if he sneaks himself into 2 picks, there's a chance you could make some serious money on something like that.
Well, I guess think about the Browns game. Who's the MVP of that game?
Yeah,
you could make a strong case for Sorensen. I mean,
you could. I would probably say Travis Kelce, but I
made the play of the game. Yeah,
you're right. You are right.
So yeah, I don't know, and that's the thing that makes you dream of bets like that.
Yeah.
So the last thing that I want to get into, one thing that I found out checking out your art, I've obviously known Jeff for a long time. We were in the same fraternity, so quick fives to you guys. We have a fraternal tie, which tied us together in a way that I didn't even know was possible. So want to get into a little bit of college talk. This is a family show, so let's keep that in mind. So Chris, where did you go to school? And I know the answer to this, and I don't really want to hear it. But where did you go to school? And talk about your time in Sigma Alpha Epsilon and in school.
Okay, sure. Yeah, I went to Mizzou. I actually have 2 degrees. I got a different degree at the University of Nebraska, Omaha. That's where I got my art teaching degree. But right after college, or my right after high school college experiences was at Mizzou. So yeah, I was an SAE there, the Mo Alpha chapter, and it was a blast, man. I loved it. My brother was a little bit older than me. He's 3 years older than me, so he was already in the fraternity. So
you're a legacy.
I was a legacy, and I had already known quite a lot of the guys. So my pledge class started at like 36 people. I can't remember exactly what we got down to, but it was significantly less than that when we got through Hell Week. But it was great. Our house at Mizzou, I don't know if you've ever seen the house at Mizzou, but it was like a off campus. It was a big, huge white mansion kind of thing.
Yep.
Like an old plantation style house, all by itself. And we just kind of had the run of the place, not being on campus. You just felt like you were kind of out camping with your best friends all the time. There's nobody around. There's no supervision. Just a bunch of 18 to 21-year-olds being maniacs, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. So how many of the guys from your active time do you keep in touch with?
Oh, quite a lot. Yeah. There's with social media, gosh, it's probably like 80% of them, but actual touch, like hanging out and seeing on the regular basis, a number of them. Actually, this is pretty funny, interesting for the content here. We have a group of probably about somewhere between 10 and 20 guys every year who go to a Chiefs game at Arrowhead, and we all wear Zubas. And so we look like morons in our old Zubas pants.
There you go.
And Howland's buddy, Andrew Carr, is one of these guys, that guy that he grew up with and went to school in Jeff City with. He's there. There's a whole bunch of these guys. And what we do is we'll just go out there. Some of them are from St. Louis, some of them flying from Chicago. And we'll all just hang out the night before, go out to the game, tailgate, do the game thing. This last time we went to the Falcons game this year.
Oh, nice.
And we were the Hy-Vee tailgate of the week, which was hilarious. Nice. The guys came by because they were drawn to our Zubas.
Yeah.
So that was pretty fun.
Yeah, nothing like a good standing guys week. So what's the best story that you have meeting somebody from another chapter? And this could be just a random type of thing, or if you went to a national meeting, what's your best story there?
Ooh, interesting. Jeff, you ought to take that one first.
Oh man. Well, Josh made it very clear this is family friendly. So I'll make sure that I keep it G. To be quite frank, I think the best takeaway that I could have possibly gotten from the fraternity is the networking. Okay. Yeah. You mentioned Andrew. Obviously you, Chris. I found out you were in SAE when we worked together at the airport, back in the early 2000s. I met Josh through the fraternity, or actually I had not joined yet. I was into racing motocross and blowing money and racking up credit card bills as a 22-year-old in Hayes, Kansas, and
four-wheeler club, right?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So Josh kind of introduced me to it, and I knew that both my parents were part of Greek life at one point in time at K-State, and not SAE, but at the end of the day, I would definitely say that the networking is hands down probably one of the most valuable things that you can capture from being part of a fraternity like this, because I worked with Josh at one point in time, and I worked with you, Chris, at one point in time, and I've only worked for 2 companies. So, I mean, I'll let that sink in real quick.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah, so what I always thought was nice is that I think your guys' situation, I mean, you had a little bit in common because you knew a common person, but it's one of those situations where you're thrown together as coworkers with, little to no common ground other than you both happen to sit in the same building with each other. But it's an easy icebreaker to find common ground really quickly. And just some of the most random things that ever happened to me. I was going to school and I happened to go to Walmart to do grocery shopping, and I had a shirt on with letters, and this dude comes up and, greets me and starts talking about how he pulled off the road to get a tire changed because he got a flat tire. And come to find out, Nick Lachey, who was, married to Jessica Simpson and the lead vocalist at 98 Degrees, was his pledge big brother at the University of Miami, Ohio, I want to say. And so we ended up sitting there talking to a guy about Nick Lachey in college, which I don't know that you could have paid me to ever assume that I would be having a conversation like that. And it's just, random stuff. But, a couple years, the national office is in the Chicago area, and we would have the leadership schools where we would go to network with people all over the country. And it's crazy. I still have, connections from people that I just randomly met in Chicago, going to college. And you never know when you're gonna, need a restaurant recommendation when you happen to be traveling for work and you're in Tulsa. It's just it's cool having the networking, like Jeff said.
Well, I thought about wearing this tonight, but unfortunately,
it doesn't fit, does it?
Well, it's a little tight. It's a little tight. I'm about 5 pounds heavier than I was in college. So
all in the chest, right? You can bench a lot more.
No, I got that turtle 6-pack,
Yeah, I got so just so buff, It's he's more buff like Mac from It Was Sunny in Philadelphia in season 7. all of a sudden gets really buff. So any other fraternal stories you want to throw out before we get out of here?
I'm trying to think. Mine are probably not for the family podcast. I do remember a couple of things that I always thought were interesting regarding meeting other fraternities. I'm talking about when we were in college at Mizzou, being in the Big 12 at the time. We would do things like host other fraternities of other schools. There was a time when the Nebraska SAEs came down. Our house was so gigantic. They would come down and in droves, 40 guys, whenever Mizzou would play, Nebraska, and they would stay in our, in the foyer, in the entryway, that people just be passed out. And we did the same thing. We were playing Kansas once when I think we were pledges. It might've been right after, just the first active semester, 40 of us drove from Columbia to Lawrence. And when we got to the SAE house, we were expecting the same kind of, chaos that we lived every day at Mizzou. And when we got there, we rolled up ready to party. And I just remember the vibe was just kind of they were not really on our level in the same sense.
We go to class here, guys.
That's exactly right. We pull up and there's only 9 dudes here, and the game's getting ready to start. Why aren't you all drunk by now? And it was just kind of it was a funny culture shock because we weren't ever rude or anything. We're all in the same fraternity or whatever, but it was just you get a different vibe depending on what school you're at and the level of insanity that particular fraternity might have.
Yeah, for sure. Well, good stuff. So don't forget to check out Chris's stuff at chrisraoart.etsy.com and buy some pieces. They're truly cool and look great on your wall. And Also follow him at Chris_Rao_art on Instagram to find out what new projects are coming out and what Godzilla project he decided to get himself into this day. And you can pick up a print or two. And so I think we're all looking forward to the Super Bowl. So go Chiefs.
Let's do it. Thank you for having us on.
Let's do it.
Hey,
Thanks for having us on.
You bet.
So run it back for the boys from 6.